Welcome, Kunru, and take over from me.
Okay, hello. So I guess you can see my screen. My name is Kunru Chen. I'm a second-year PhD student at Halmstad University. Today I'm going to introduce a project, Semi-supervised Representation Learning for Machine Activity Recognition to you. This project is a collaboration between Halmstad University and Toyota Material Handling. The company wants to understand the usage knowledge of the equipment. This usage knowledge basically describes how the vehicle has been used in a particular period of time. Now, with this information, they can do the productivity monitoring on the factory. They can improve the product design and the maintenance service. They can even suggest a better arrangement of the warehouse. The conventional methods to understand usage knowledge, it's based on mechanical statistic. They just calculate the running time of the drive motor and the lift motor. And then in the context of machine learning, this problem is also called machine activity recognition. So in this project, we want to recognize 5 routine activities of forklift trucks. These are other, drive without load, drive with load, take load, and lift load. We want to learn deep representations from this control area network signal that's called CAN signals. Now, this signal is streaming data. It is generated during the operation, so it's with high real-time performance. And then we will develop an autoencoder-based method to learn this representation, and then we will apply semi-supervised learning techniques to fine-tune this representation by using pseudo-labeled data. Now I will introduce the data situation. Just like all the real-world scenario, we have small amount of labeled data and large amount of unlabeled data. And we have 2 labeled data sets in this project. They are collected in a Sweden warehouse. The longer one is just with 58 minutes. It contains normal operations, while the short one is with only 27 minutes. It focuses on different type of load handlings and complicated drivings with lots of stops and turns in the middle. And then if you look at unlabeled data, it is collected in another warehouse located in Norway. It contains 2 weeks of normal operations from the same truck, but it's from different drivers. Now the problem is how to use both labeled and unlabeled data to develop a classifier to recognize the 5 activities. Then I will go through the methods quickly. First, we'll use the small amount of label data to build a random forest. That's a very traditional semi-supervised learning step. And then we have another unsupervised learning step that we just use the large amount of unlabeled data to train an autoencoder. And then we will apply the random forest on the unlabeled data to generate pseudo-labeled data. In that sense, we can have a lot of pseudo-labeled data. And then we will transform the autoencoder into a discriminator by removing the decoder part and adding 1 output layer connecting to the bottleneck. So in this manner, with this structure, the discriminator can be trained in a supervised manner. You can add supervision information to the representations. And then we use the pseudo-label data to train this discriminator. We extract a discriminative representation from the discriminator, and we build another random forest on top of this discriminative representation. Note that this random forest actually learns from a low-dimensional space, while if you look at this supervised learning random forest, it actually learns from the original space. If, for example, if we choose only 14 CAN signals and use a 2-second window to capture the signals, that's corresponding to 20 time step, and it will end up in a 280-dimensional input space. Now we call this middle step as semi-supervised learning step. After that, we will have our one last step called post-processing. This step is non-machine learning involved. We have it here for 2 things. The first one would be we want to fix the predictions with low confidence. The second thing would be we want to use the contextual information to better infer the current activity. And then I would just quickly show you the results. So you have 2 spaces here. The left one is before fine-tuning. The right one is after fine-tuning. The points from different color means it's data from different activities. And you can see the activity can be better separated in the right representation. That's after fine-tuning with the pseudo label. Yes, that's basically my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kunru. Super interesting. So if you have questions to Kunru, please write them in our Q&A section. And meanwhile, I can ask you a question. Yes. So if I understand correct, you try to label unlabeled data in order to get in the end the final machine learning model to understand basically how these truck lifts or lifts are used, right?
Yes.
So how do you know that your labeled data actually in the end produce the results good enough to understand this behavior?
Yes, that's a good question. That would go back to the purpose of autoencoder. The autoencoder in this method is trained from the unlabeled data, but we use the autoencoder to reconstruct both the unlabeled data and the labeled data. If the autoencoder can reconstruct these two data very well, it means the distribution of these two data sets are kind of overlapping. They are aligned well. So in that sense, we have more confidence on the pseudo label. That's why we have the autoencoder here, and that will gain the confidence of the pseudo label data. Yes.
Thank you. I actually have one question from another attendee. Follow up on what you just explained. What is autoencoder? If you can simply explain what it is.
Autoencoder is a neural network that contains of two parts, the encoder part and the decoder part. The encoder will embed the information from the original space to a smaller space, for example, like this 2 or 3D space, very small. And then the decoder part will try to translate the information in this small dimension into the original space. So by having these two parts of the network, you can have a lower dimensional representation to explain the data from the original space, which is usually high dimensional. Yeah, that's my explanation.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And the last question is, what do you use to fix the output with low confidence?
Here, yes, because the random forest, okay, I will go back to, go back to the slide here. These 5 target activities here, they are quite similar with each other. For example, the take low and leave low are quite similar with each other. So in some cases, the random forest might understand, okay, this is low handling, but it doesn't understand which one exactly it is. So in those cases, the random forest will have low confidence on the predictions. And with this post-processing, we want to add contextual information to help the classifier to better inference the current activities. Yes.
Thank you. And even though I said it was the last question, but we still have time for the questions. There is another question coming. Okay. So is the discriminator referring to the encoder or decoder network in the AE?
It is actually the biggest part of the discriminator would be the encoder and the bottleneck part. And then only the output layer, it's just one layer of the neural network is the discriminator part. So actually the encoder, it's from the autoencoder, so it's not training from scratch.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you, Kunru. Very interesting presentation.